how to emotionally detach yourself from a person or a relationship, especially one where the person's highly manipulative. They have that element of control, and you know that this is not healthy and that it's emotionally causing you turmoil throughout the day when you should be focusing on other things, and you just think, how do I get away from this scenario? I'm going to give you some bad news, but then I have some good news. The bad news is you probably can't, of your own volition, emotionally detach yourself from a person. And you will hear people that after somebody dies, or a divorce, or a very bad breakup, or a friendship gone awry 10, 20, 30 years down the road, their mind and body are still trying to process that and resolve it. And it'll come up in dreams, and you just think, is this ever going to be gone? I have moved on in my life. And yet somehow they have embedded themselves in your psyche. And that is just how life is. So you just have to recognize, even when you have the thoughts, even when you have the feelings, they're actually irrelevant. You don't have to be emotionally detached from a person to move on with life. So point number 2, this is the good news. You can detach yourself physically, communicatively, and your reliance upon them. You can detach those elements. So physically, you can say, I'm no longer going to be hanging around you. Or you can just stop hanging around them, or you can start hanging around other people. And that's where the reliance issue is. What is the need that they are meeting in your life? And where can you have that need met elsewhere? Is there another good friend? Maybe you are trying to emotionally connect to a person when really you should be emotionally connecting to the Lord and deepening your prayer life and pouring out everything upon God. Maybe you're looking for intimacy and you've connected in a negative way, whether this could be inappropriate texts or communications, or when I say inappropriate, that was just in a sensual manner, but maybe inappropriate, the fact that you shouldn't even be having this level of an emotional connection with this type of person. Maybe they're a married person, maybe they're a lost coworker, and you have just given yourself in that intimate but not sensual, I'm just saying, that connection within you, and you just need to break it off, and you need to communicate that. I've decided that this is not a relationship that I'm going to pursue, and you do not have to explain why. Because if somebody's highly manipulative, they're going to turn it around and you're a bad guy, and it always does this, and or if you don't talk to me, then I'm going to do this, I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to hurt your family, it doesn't matter what they say. Do what you believe the most Christ-like version of you would do. And God does say to go to a person and explain if you have an ought with them, but you can just end it at that. The Bible also says that depart from the presence of a fool when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge. So those are just the steps you take. You explain to them what you're going to do and how you are going to distance yourself from them. And then you have to stick to it. You've already communicated what you're going to do, and then you have to show. You no longer need to tell because you've already said it. Show it by your actions. Don't call them up. Don't send them a text. When they message you, don't respond. When they comment on your posts, you could block them because you said you no longer are going to do this, or you just have to say, no, I find it easier to block people because then you aren't triggered because you've been emotionally trained by that person to respond a certain way. So build up barricades so that you can detach yourself physically and communicatively, and then build reliance in an appropriate way with a better scenario or a better fellowship with somebody. Number 3, time and distance lessens your reliance, because as you move on and you have built other friendships and other relationships and a different support system, you don't need them. And so in that element, those gut responses and those habits of reaching to talk to them are lessened. There is an element of willpower and praying for God's help for self-control and having some temperance there. But build up your life in a way to where you do not need them. Those needs are met elsewhere in better, healthy ways. But just remember again, those relationships, once they've been built, they will have splinters. Those people still are somewhat embedded in your life. Sometimes it's just in the learning lessons that they've given you. Sometimes you do suffer a loss because they met a need, and you feel that loss and you go through that grief, and that's okay, as long as you are committed to where you want to go and why you want to go there. I highly recommend writing letters, not necessarily mailing them, but writing letters out, everything that you've thought, and praying and saying, God, where am I, and why am I, and why do I feel this way, and why do I want to move on, and what type of relationship do I want to have with people, so that when you're feeling weak, you can go back and reread that and say, I've committed to this because it was a good, logical choice. And then the Bible says, commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Choose to be Christ-like. Choose to live your life in a way that honors him, honors the Lord, and get busy about doing good and building good relationships, so eventually your thoughts will catch up with what your actions are doing.